Welcome to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. Hey, that's me. Hi, and welcome to Positive Talk. Our show features the best positive stories and people from around the globe as we endeavor to answer the universal question of why am I here and what is my purpose? Understanding that can change everything, and knowing your greatness is fundamental to living your best life. So join us right now as together we work to create the adventure of our lifetime. And welcome, and I dare say welcome. It is awesome to have everybody here. I'm glad you're here because this is a very, 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 did I say very important topic that we're going to be discussing today? And it all has to do with the beautiful, wonderful sex that I'm not. But hopefully, Rochelle will be here, and Geena is here, and we're going to be talking about women's issues regarding eating disorders and trauma that they go through their life and stuff, and you know very much about it, Geena. You've got a wonderful podcast page or a Facebook page and your website and all of that, and you're endeavoring to make a difference. Tell us a little about yourself and your background.
Of course, Kevin. First of all, thank you so much for having me here. I'm very excited about this. And, you know, my background stems, well, as far as like trauma and where my battles with food started, go all the way back to the age of 8 years old. Oh. And that's when I first started finding that food seemed to give me some comfort in moments of sadness or just uncertain emotions that I didn't maybe know how to navigate. My parents divorced when I was 8, and that kind of felt very sudden to me and unexpected. And so that was hard for me to go through, made me sad, of course. And with that, you know, came its own set of challenges. Flash forward a little bit to, you know, age of 9, I started being abused in a sexual manner. And so then I really found myself needing food for comfort and sneaking it and hiding it. And it just kind of wrapped me up in a warm hug, so to speak. And, you know, that comes with a lot of different types of emotions and things that you just are not equipped to handle at such a young age.
Yeah, that is so true. By the way, I got to ask you, what was your favorite comfort food?
You know, it's always been sweets. Always.
Yeah. Well, they have a reaction, especially with the sugar.
Yes.
In your body and stuff, that it makes you feel good. And when you're not feeling good, you need to figure out some way of feeling better.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. You know, and you know, depression and stuff started for me at that point. And so I spent many years trying to navigate that and, you know, figure all of that out. And it took many years for me to work towards healing all the things that I had gone through over the course of not just my young years, but my young adulthood and everything in between. Everything in between. And so, you know, I just, about 5 years ago, I really started digging in deep to start really healing myself and change the narrative that was running rampant in my head all those years that was not feeding me well or serving me well. And just kind of revamped how I approached life.
No, we're going to get into it. And our audience wants to know, I think, how you did it. But first of all, I want to delve a little bit deeper into first, you know, I've been doing this show for 4 or 5 years now, and you would be amazed. No, you wouldn't be. I was amazed at the number of people who have gone through a lot of different traumas in their early years and their teenage years, and women seem to have dealt with more than a lot of men that I know. And there she is. There's Michelle. How are you?
Hi, Gina.
Hi,
I'm
nice
good.
to
How are
meet
you guys?
you.
You as well.
And Michelle, we were just talking about because she's gone through a lot of trauma in her life, and I know that you've had trauma in your life as well. And I was just commenting that women seem to go through more than the typical dude does, and the typical dude, and it makes it difficult for you. And also, it's almost, to my mind, after interviewing so many people, Gina, it's almost a universal thing
Hmm.
with women, that there's certain things that you guys have to put up with that nobody would ever consider who's doing the same things to like me. So I appreciate you being here, because there are many, 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 I'd say in the 90 something percent of women that have had trauma in their early life and then expressed it in different ways. In
Hmm.
your way was, I'm hungry and I'm going to eat lots of sweets.
Absolutely. I mean, I found through, the abuse that I endured at a young age, and then in my early 20s, also an assault that happened at a party. It fed, so to speak, the need to find comfort and uh, just bury everything that I didn't want to face and deal with. And so, after the assault happened in my early 20s, I found that I was very intent on building a body of armor for myself, um, metaphorically and in reality, you know, uh, because I also kind of fed into the society influence of, if you look a certain way, you're not deemed as physically attractive. And so I took that to heart and kind of went off the deep end with binge eating, and, gained a lot of weight very quickly, and with the intent of hopefully avoiding any further physical harm upon my body, because I still didn't have the right tools at my disposal at that point, nor the want to really dig in and fix my wounds at that point.
Well, it's interesting because in Rochelle, you know this, and it manifests itself in various ways. Either it can
Mm-hmm.
be drug abuse, it can be alcohol abuse, it can be even relationship abuse, and all kinds of different aspects of. And every person is different.
Mm-hmm.
Rochelle? Would you say that's true?
Yeah. Yeah, really. And where my mind is at is when we interact with one another and when we make face-to-face interactions or anything, really, just ever, anywhere you go, we have to remember that we don't know what someone else has been through.
Mm-hmm.
Because you'd look at somebody, could be the happiest, go lucky, just super fun person. And they have things that they've been through that really would be hard to even hear in words in
Mm-hmm.
person.
Yeah.
And so I think it's good that we focus on helping each other when someone does come due in those times, or you do see that, and help find the tools and the resources like you did. And
Mm-hmm.
because I couldn't imagine how many people your story has inspired or helped by just seeing, okay, well, she did it this way and I do it this way, and that's okay because we're not
Mm-hmm.
supposed to be the same for so many reasons.
Yeah.
And if this helped her, maybe even the same things could help someone else, just in a different perspective and different view. So, um, really, I've become such a loving person out of it, because I used to be mean. I chose anger to
Mm.
protect myself, and everybody keeps telling me now, you're so nice, you're so loving, you're so happy, and I'm like, well, I realize that if I hurt myself, then I hurt other people, and that hurts me as
Mhm.
well. So it's a cycle that it's extremely hard to break, but it is so worth it. So
Yeah, the path from healing to, or from hurt to healing looks different for everybody, right?
Mm-hmm.
And, Kevin, you touched on some people turn to alcohol, some people, everybody has their coping vices. And I evolved into multiple different types of ways to try to cope because, the eating alone wasn't suffice. So I, started self-harm, and, I had suicide attempts as early as 9 years old up until 28. And so, I was grasping and trying to find so many different things to try to, end the pain, or just find calm in the storm. And it's not always an easy thing.
Yeah.
Especially when you are out there and you may not be, but you feel like you're all alone.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes, you
this has
feel.
never happened to anybody else,
Mm-hmm.
and nobody would understand
Mm-hmm.
the pain that you've gone through. And so, I know so many people that have contemplated suicide because they are tired of it and want it to end.
Yeah.
But that's not the right answer. And I just want to point out that this is a great time to say, if you are in that space, there's a number I want you to call. It's 988. It is a national hotline for people who are in pain and are looking for a way out. And that's not the way out.
Right.
And so 988 is a number that I wanted to get out there so that people can go there and they will help you. They'll find you the help that you need. Because,
Absolutely.
the thing is, Geena, is we all need help.
Mm-hmm.
There ain't nobody here that's got it down perfectly. And I'm just so glad that there are people like you out there that are working now that you've been through it. You have the experiences of it and you came out the other side and are now able to say, hey, look at me. It happened to me too, but we can
Yeah.
fix it.
Yeah. If you hang in there and really dig in and do the work, you can overcome any hardships that have come at you over time, whether you're in the thick of it right now, or it's past tense, or if it's future tense. It's so imperative, like you said, to not feel like you are alone, because when you're in the middle of it, that's all you can see.
It makes it really hard. Rochelle, you're vigorously nodding your head. What does that mean?
Yes. Well, I'm thinking of a few things, but really, um, what was my first thought? This is gonna drive me crazy. My first thought had to do with um, how much we hold on to things that hurt us, continue to hurt us actually more.
Mm-hmm.
And letting go of it is scarier than holding on, but it is actually easier. But maybe not completely letting it go. I think that in itself takes so much time. But just to accept it, because a lot of times we're spending all that time just trying to run, and even just coming face to face with it and being like, okay, I see you, and I know that happened, and I'm going to continue to move on, but I'm not going to ignore you. It's almost like, your little self is peeking through all the time and screaming at you and asking you for attention. And if you continue to push them down, they get a lot louder, like a toddler would.
Mm-hmm.
And it really just makes it harder to just be, because anywhere, anytime, through every day, your mind is continuously going. And I'll relate to this in a way I think is kind of cool. So I hate the dentist. It is the worst place on earth. I do think it should exist, but I you should probably knock me out before I even go in the building. And I get so
Carry her in
nervous.
and throw her in the chair.
Yeah, wheel me in. Like, I don't even want to see where I'm at. Um, but I sweat really, really bad, and to where, like, I will soak through napkins. My mom will sit and laugh at me because I'm freaking out. And on the outside, I'm communicating with other people, talking to people. I seem completely normal. My mom said, "You're like a duck in the water. You see them, and they're just going like this, like many people we come face to face with, but we don't see what's going on underneath the scene of everything else." And I think sometimes too, people will, um, like, there's those shutdown moments and then those explosion moments. So they'll
Mhm.
be like super happy, super this and that, chaotic, crazy for a few days. And then it's like, don't talk to me. I want everything to be black. I don't want anybody to look at me. Like, I can't even handle myself. Um, and really, like, if you're going through that, it's okay and it is normal. And
Mhm.
there's people that love you, they want to help you, like hundreds and thousands of people, whether they know you or don't. And specifically for thinking about, you have those thoughts and that kind of goes into other people because I've had friends that have been so down low that when I talk to them, it brings me kind of down. And instead of being that, kind of be there with them, but also try to uplift them and remind them of what is there,
Mhm.
because when you're in that space, like you said, you're blocked. Like nothing
Mhm.
matters. There's no purpose. This is all a waste of time. Like I'm just pretty much waiting around to die. But
Mhm.
it's not the big things that bring you out of it. It's those little things. And for you, did you have moments like that where it was those little things that kind of made you start to see the other side of what could be there for you?
And before you answer that question, we need to take a quick break. By the way, we're talking with Geena Hymer, and she works with women who have been through trauma. Well, that's a pretty broad swath because just about everybody's had what they would consider trauma in their life. And it doesn't have to be a huge thing. It can be something that turns into PTSD or something else from a smaller event. And we're going to talk about that and how you got out of it. We've laid the groundwork of why you were in it, and now we're going to talk about how you got out of it so we can help people that are struggling with it right now get out of it and live the life. And that was a nice dog. Whose dog is that?
That would be mine.
Oh, perfect. What kind of dog is it? We love dogs here.
He's a little terrier.
Oh, and terriers like to be spoken. They like to talk.
Yes. Yes.
So we're talking with Geena Hymer, and we're going to be right back. Brichelle's got like 3 dogs and 4 cats and 100 spiders in her room. So we will be right back. Spiders in her room? Yeah, she does. We'll be right back. At 67 years young, I never thought I'd feel this good again. But thanks to Purium's Ultimate Transformation Lifestyle, to date, I've lost 37 pounds and gained energy, confidence, and a whole new outlook on life. This isn't a diet. Purium is a complete lifestyle change, giving me all the natural, organic, nutrition-packed superfoods that fuel my body, crush my cravings, and help me burn fat naturally without starving myself. No gimmicks, no guesswork, just a simple, proven system that works. Superfood shakes, detox support, and real results. If I can do this at 67, imagine what you can do. It's your time to feel better, look better, and live better with Purium. Let's do it now, and let's do it together. Go to www.positivetalkradio.net and click on the Transform You to get started. That's positivetalkradio.net. Transform You. And welcome back to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. Brichelle is here, and Geena Hymer is here. She works with women who have been through trauma and are looking to get out the other side and live a happy, healthy, productive, fulfilling life, which I hope that doesn't sound like it's out of reach for you, because I'm here to tell you it's not out of reach. Sometimes, though, you need help, and you need somebody who understands where you've been and why you've been there and why you're doing what you're doing. And Geena can do that. And it's great to have you here, by the way.
Thank you. I'm loving it. So it was such a nice conversation we had the first time we talked. So,
well, and I am dedicated to the premise that everybody should be able to live the life that they truly wish to live. But because of the stories that we tell ourselves, the events that happen in our life, the experience that we have, some of us don't feel like we're worthy of it, and we can't have it, or that they're scared of the future because of the past. Does any of that make sense to you?
oh, absolutely. I mean, for so many years, I lived in a great state of fear, fear of moving forward because, when you are going through such hardships and dark times, it becomes a part of your identity. And so there is some uncertainty about what lies ahead if you don't have that part of you that is taking up space every single day. But at the same time, there's a lot of excitement behind freeing yourself of all of that, at least the best you can. Because, I think I'll always be healing to some degree. Mm-hmm. And as we all do. It just frees up your mind to focus on thriving and just living a more healthy life for you, and both, mentally or physically or whatever that looks like.
That can be hard to do if you don't feel like you've got the tools to do it. Mm-hmm. Can you give us some of the tools that you utilized to get through that all the way through? And I want to point this out. You got through it all the way to the point of where you are now sharing your story openly and helping other people get through that, understanding that if you're a special person, but you ain't that special. If you can do it, anybody can do
it. Yeah. I very much believe that the pains that I went through was for a greater purpose. And I get that very much so because I'm very big into my faith. And so I can see that now because I can see the strength that I've developed through all of this. And, it was about 10 years ago that I really started transitioning both my mental and my physical health. Because like I'd mentioned, with the binge eating, I put on 160 pounds, like a whole other person.
Holy crap. How does that even happen?
Well, it happened over probably about 8 to 10 years, maybe a little less, because part of that time frame is a bit of a blur. But, again, I was really intentional about wanting to build a layer of protection. And that's really what I did. And it wasn't until 10 years ago, it would have been 10 years ago last month, actually, that, I had to fly unexpectedly out of town to go to my grandmother's funeral. And I had a middle seat on both of those flights, and I was at my heaviest. And I ended up being both humiliated and shamed by two different people on different flights because they were uncomfortable sitting next to me. And that just left me feeling humiliated and full of rage that someone would, make me feel so less than, that I made a definitive decision after those situations that I was going to take control of my physical and mental health. And I'd already kind of been toying with the idea of, doing certain things to improve that before that happened. But that just kind of solidified the decisions I had already been thinking about. And I knew with regards to like the binge eating disorder that I needed some medical intervention and tools that would not allow me to consume so much because I was consuming dangerous amounts of food all at once. Just most people didn't know that because it was behind closed doors, because there's a lot of shame tied to doing that as well. But I also knew that I really had to buckle down and start to heal the underlying cause for my eating disorder, because they go hand in hand.
Well, and I just want to mention, and Rochelle, you would have never had to deal with this because you're all of like 50 pounds soaking wet. And but when you're on an airplane and you're on the middle seat, it doesn't matter what seat you're in. At one point in time, you have to buckle your seatbelt.
Yes.
Well, there are times when they say, "Oh, would you please buckle your seatbelt?" And it's like, it's not big enough. And so then you have to go get it's a big deal. Then you got to go get the extension, and then they hook up the extension, and everybody's looking at you going, I gotta go. Why are we still sitting here? And because she can't put her damn seatbelt on. That can be a very, very poor experience for you. And that would make it really, really hard. It'd be highly embarrassing, I would think.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I had gotten into the habit anytime I flew to ask for that as soon as I boarded. So I didn't have to make it known necessarily. But when the person that sits down next to you, like in these situations, they couldn't put the armrest down because, you know, I was taking up their part of their seat, or, you know, they just weren't very comfortable and stood up and made a scene and asked to be reseated. And, you know, I couldn't avoid it. I mean, my body composition was what it was, and I didn't want to be on that plane to begin with. So why not make me feel worse?
Exactly. Well, and for those of you that are just listening here, so you gained 106. You gained a whole person, but yes. I get the impression you lost a whole person too.
When I got down to my lowest, I lost all that weight I'd put on, but instead I dropped it in a year after having bariatric surgery.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That is huge.
Yeah.
That is
So,
well, and I just want to point out too that the other side of that is so important, because for me, all my family is much bigger. Me and my mom are like teeny tiny. And I got to the point where I kind of did the same thing with like being obsessed about eating. And it got to the point where I didn't care what I was eating or how much of it. It would make me sick. I would throw up. I would lose more weight. It was just this continuous process because like I felt like everybody looked at me and I was just a skeleton. And then when I started to look at myself and love myself, I naturally started to build muscle and more weight. I mean, I've always been more of a muscly person, but I built some more natural, healthy fats. And when I looked at myself, I realized I'm not 6'5", and being 115 pounds does not make me look sick. I'm just a small person. Yeah. And like literally anybody, however you are or whoever you are, when you love yourself, your body will naturally go to its healthiest point. And when I realized a lot of that also was all from my mental, like it's crazy because like you said, Geena, they go hand in hand. You work on the other and the other improves. So I love that you got to see such a huge thing in that so hugely. And you know what? If I would have sat next to you on that plane, we would have laughed and giggled the whole time. So I'm so sorry that happened to you.
Thank you. You know, that's behavior that they have to, you know, own up to someday. But
well, and it also taught you to, if you're that person now who's lost all that weight, you sit next to somebody or you're with somebody who's bigger, you're not going to make them ever feel like that because you know what that feels like to be in that space. And that's where it comes, you know, if you wouldn't have been there, you wouldn't have learned and understood that. Like maybe some people don't. So just be nice to everybody.
I know. It's really not that hard.
Like,
no. For some people, it is that hard.
Well, and I feel bad too because I was that person. Even if you were nice to me, I'd find a way just to throw some fire at you. Like, girl, just shut up. Why are you talking?
But look at how you've evolved, right? Yeah.
Well, and it's embarrassing for yourself when you're that person because you were embarrassed, but they embarrassed themselves because I know damn well there was somebody on that plane that was thinking, like, can we all just not make a scene about this? Like, this is a human, this is a person. And I am that person now who, if I see something like that happening, I will stand up and I will get in the middle of it because I don't put up with it.
Yeah. Well, thankfully, in one of those situations, there was a very sweet woman who was sat there next to the window, and she lifted up the armrest between us, and she's like, "Here, honey, you can scoot over," you know, to try to ease the situation. And I mean, I was already on the verge of tears as it was, and that just, you know, that took me over.
I want to tell you that there's a special place in heaven for people who make that kind gesture. And so if you want a special place in heaven, I suppose.
Be nice.
You be kind to each other because each other's all we've got. I've heard that somewhere. I don't remember where.
Yeah, it's not like you say that every day. And it's so important too because Geena, that stuck with you. You remember her because of that momentary decision she made just to help you feel safe and comfortable. So
Yeah.
that's so cool. She made the other person probably look really stupid, and I love her for that.
Me too.
Well, and kindness is an art form. It can be learned, even if you're a grumpy little old soul. It can be learned, but it's and it's very important. By the way, we're talking with Geena Hymer. Go to her, and your website, my dear, is.
Well, once it goes live, it will be geenahymer.com.
And right now, though, you can go to Facebook.
Yes.
And just look up because that's what I did. Geena Hymer, and it's right there, and it's a pretty beautiful picture and Montana love and all that kind of stuff. So we're talking with her. Rochelle is here, and we need to take our station break, and we will be right back. Don't go anywhere because I want to ask you specifically about you had the surgery, and I know of a lot of people who have had the surgery, but there's an issue that was remaining, and sometimes they lose a bunch of weight and then they gain it all back. We'll be right back. I want to explore that with you.
You're listening to Brushwood Media Network, the best in syndicated talk, news, and entertainment shows.
As you go about your daily life, look closer. As you gather with family and friends who love and support you, look closer. There are youth right in your community who don't have the home, warmth, and healing you have. So look closer. Every year across America, a staggering 4.2 million youth are homeless or trafficked. And for 50 years, Covenant House has worked relentlessly to keep them safe and protected. Tonight, 2,000 young people will sleep safely in a Covenant House bed. And tomorrow, they will wake up surrounded by love. They get clean clothes, hot meals, medical care, and a safe place to sleep. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. In sites across America to help them fulfill the great promise of their lives. So look closer at Covenant House. To help or get help, go to covenanthouse.org.
And welcome back to Positive Talk. We're having a heck of a good time talking to Geena Hymer, and Rochelle's here, and we're talking specifically about women's issues and how they deal with trauma through their early years, teenage years, adult years, and then be able to get through the trauma and figure out how to live their lives, which, by the way, when you live your life in a happy, productive way, magically, it impacts other people that are around you as well. It is the coolest phenomenon. And Geena, thank you for being here. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
And I wanted to ask you, because I've known a lot of people, not a lot, but they've gone through gastric bypass surgery, which is that what you did?
It is.
And they went through that, and of course that shrinks your stomach, and then you need to take supplements and stuff, and because you no longer have the room in your stomach to put stuff, and I've known people to lose 100 pounds, 130, and that had been big, but they didn't solve the mental issues that went along with it, and so consequently, after they felt, I talked to somebody about this. She said she felt like a fat person in a skinny body, and she wasn't comfortable for her. And so she ended up gaining all the weight plus some back. That happens a lot, doesn't it?
It does. And, that's something that was certainly talked about at my surgeon's office, both before I had the surgery and after the fact. And, I like to say that going through that process, I would say 90% of it is mental. If you have to deal with the underlying issues because, I had an addiction to food. It became so intertwined with any emotion I felt that, if I was stressed, I would want to eat. If I was triggered by something that took me back to dark places in my life, I wanted to eat. If I was happy, I wanted to eat. It's changing the relationship to food altogether. And, it's not to say you can't binge after you have gastric bypass. It just looks entirely differently because you don't have the means to consume so much. And, this June is my 10th year anniversary from when I did have the surgery.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And, over that 10 years, I have had some regain, and I'm not exactly where I want to be. But some regain is entirely normal. But it's even more weight gain especially if like the surgeon's office doesn't require a psychological evaluation beforehand. Thankfully, mine did. I think if they don't do that, they're providing a grave disservice to their patients, because you have to be prepared for, like you said, the person that told you they feel like they are a larger person in a smaller body, and that made them uncomfortable. That was something I had to navigate as well. That might have been one of the biggest challenges, is because I spent so many years building that body of armor as a means to protect myself, that being in a smaller body naturally drew more attention to myself because, I was deemed more normal by society standards. And so I had to learn how to feel safe in a smaller body.
And I just wanted to mention, if you are listening to this rather than watching it, she is a very attractive young woman.
Oh, thank you.
And I can understand if you spent all that time building up 160 pounds of armor, and now that armor is no longer there, and now you're starting to get the same things that may have happened to you with cat calls, or hey baby, come here, can I buy you a drink, all that kind of negative behavior that unfortunately men tend to go there and stuff, and to get through that. How did you get through that so that you felt good about yourself as you're supposed to be, not feeling like you have to gain a bunch of weight for the armor?
I really had to do a lot of self work on believing that I am worthy of a positive love, because I spent so many years not feeling like I was deserving of it, just based off of the way I had been treated. And, before I started my healing journey, I put up with a lot of nonsense in relationships with men too, because I didn't have that self-love or respect for myself. And so that was then projected onto them. And they're like, well, hey, she must be, open range, so to speak.
Yeah.
And so, it still is a struggle at times. I spent almost my entire 20s not even dating because I didn't feel like it was safe to. And over that course of the 20s is when I put on all that excess weight. And so, but, it's been a roller coaster. It's hard to, not feel comfortable in a larger body and not feel comfortable in a smaller size body. You just have to learn how to really accept who you are, whatever stage you're at, and know that you're worthy of all the best that life has to offer, irregardless.
I think that's really true. Rochelle, what do you think?
Yeah, I think everybody, we could speak on karma, right? But that's not one of those things. It's not like you went out of your way to hurt somebody so intentionally and now you gained 100 pounds. It's really you hurting yourself. It's you doing that to you. And I think it all kind of comes down to how much is like what I learned that I think changed my perspective is my life coach told me, when you say those things to yourself and you start to listen to the conversation in your head, imagine somebody that you love, a daughter, a sister, a child, like just anybody, as a younger self. Would you tell them any of those things? And it's the same thing as why you're kind of traumatizing yourself at that point,
Mhm.
going through it to continue to believe those things. You're allowing your brain to believe it. Whatever you tell your brain believes.
Mhm.
And wherever you are, and whatever the reason is for that, finding the space, I mean, we can always do better, right? We can always be more, or we can always, straight haired people want curly hair, and you have all these things, but really when you sit into your own space and realize that you are unique for who you are, in, like I mentioned, those little things. It's not these huge big picture things. And I think that's what, like, when I was in my dark times, that's what I thought about, is I thought about the end just like so far away. And I'm like, there's so much I'm gonna have to do to get there. When
Mhm.
really it all started in here. And if anything, it hurt more to address it first, because I realized how much I was hurting myself
Right.
and how much that was also hurting other people to see me like that and to deal with me. And so when you think about loving yourself, it's so much. It seems so complicated. Like, that itself can be so overwhelming, even just to say out loud, like, I love me. Um, but everybody wishes they could be different. And a lot of times, how you wish you could be someone else, there's someone who wishes they could be you. So
Mhm.
just stand in your energy and be where you are in the moment, and know you can always change.
Mhm.
Anything can change if you decide
Not
to.
necessarily. I don't care if it's curly hair or straight hair. I just want hair. Is that too much to ask?
Okay, you're being picky. I'll go get a haircut this weekend and I'll give you the ends.
There you go. Tape it.
just, just tape it on. Oh boy,
I
I
always
gotta
told
say.
him I'd buy him a wig just because I want to see what it looks like.
We'll
Well,
make it a bright colored one then.
you make it a
Yeah, and
blonde wig.
see, Kevin, you say that now. This is the same thing we've been talking about this whole time. You want hair, but if you had hair and you looked at yourself in the mirror, you'd be like, oh, whoa, who's that? Like, maybe you wouldn't like it. Maybe you'd feel uncomfortable. Maybe you would want it off. So, it's wherever your brain decides to go.
Yeah.
That's it. That is so true. So Gina, I have to ask you, how are you today? Somebody in our audience wants to know, how are you doing today?
For the most part, I'm good. Like everybody, we have our bad days. I'm like, as an example, I'm currently working on writing my first memoir, and working on that comes with ebbs and flows.
Hold on.
Mm.
Thank you, thank you.
Congratulations. That is a big friggin' deal, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a long overdue goal of mine. So
And is that going to be on your website?
it will
What's
be.
up?
The hope is that it will be published by the end of this year.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, well, see, the applause made me lose my train of thought. What was I saying now? Oh, you
There,
want me to
now
get it back?
Now it'll come back.
The ebbs and
Um,
flows we were talking
oh
about.
yeah, I find that when I'm writing about certain things, obviously some are harder than others. I have to grant myself grace when I need to take a step back, when it's just too much. And then, there's things that it's like I write it down and I'm like, wow, I can then visually see how far my progress has been. And so then it gives me moments of great pride. And so, life throws curveballs at us each and every day. Maybe not every day. Let's hope not. But, I try to feed my mind well. I kind of redid my social media back 10 years ago when I really started working on healing. And I was very intentional about what I was feeding myself, because let's be honest, most of us start our day scrolling mindlessly on Instagram or Facebook or the news or whatever. So I started following positive news, or, great quotes. I love a good quote. And, funny cat videos or whatever it might be, because it's all about, how you approach life, right? And approach those hard things that come up.
And I'll tell you, Geena, that's why this show exists.
Yes.
Is because, it apparently, doggone it, isn't for everybody, but because some people are knee deep in trauma and victimhood and anger and hate, division and fear, but there's a segment of people out there that they've had it. They've had it with all of that, and they are looking for something positive, like this show. And there are, what are there in the United States? 175 million women, and probably 169.5 have had trauma, and really need to get together, work together, and you can help them because you've been through it. And is every day perfect? Of course not. It would be no fun if every day was just cupcakes and rainbows. It's got to be experiences that you have and stuff. But then I taught Rochelle, the one thing that I taught her was the gospel according to Paul McCartney, and I'm going to make you guys guess what it is. And because we're going to take a break, and when we come back, she's going to tell you what the gospel according to Paul McCartney is. And they're going, what are you talking about? We'll be right back. Are you looking for a powerful way to grow your brand while making a real difference? Well, Positive Talk is the perfect platform to align your message with inspiration, hope, and meaningful conversations. By sponsoring Positive Talk, your brand will reach an engaged audience that values positivity and connection. People who want to support companies that share their values. Take this opportunity to showcase your business in a space that uplifts, inspires, and creates lasting impact. Don't wait. Email me, Kevin@kmmedia.pro today to learn how you can partner with us and spread positivity while growing your brand. See, I got your head going there just a little bit with that song. I just love that piece because it makes me feel happy, and music does that for me. It always makes me feel happy, and so. But I said something at the going into the break, which was the gospel according to Paul McCartney, and that is what? Well, tell her the story about how that came about.
To Let It Be? Oh man. Well, first of all, we need to add that to the show because I cannot sit and hear it if I'm not going to hear the song. But since I started working with Kevin, after what I hate to say has been a year of writing on my mirrors, I have all these things written on my mirror. One of the first things he told me was to let it be, child. And at first it made me mad, kind of. I was like, let it be. Like, I don't know what you mean. Like, I need to be in control of everything, And then he told me, I think you have control problems. And I was like, whoa, okay, maybe I do. And then it started this whole path of like going back to look at myself and realize that everything I was trying to control, I wasn't, for one. For two, as much as I tried to control it, I was making it worse. Because I wasn't just allowing anything to be the way it was, and I couldn't see it for the way it was because I wanted it to be my way. And now I've come to the point to not only do I say that out loud to myself, like I scream it in my house when I catch myself going down a rabbit hole. But I also say that to other people now that I'm just like, just let it be. And they look at me, they gave me the same, like, what? Let it be. Like, it's going to happen no matter what. Might as well try to control it and know. And I wanted to mention too, one of the things that keeps going through my head is it is so amazing. Geena, I know you probably feel this way about you lived in the past for so long. And it was just that one moment of deciding, like, even just the curiosity, not the decision, but the curiosity alone that allowed you to step out of that. And you didn't even really get, like, obviously we're never going to get to the point we exactly want to be by a certain time or age or whatever, but you set goals for yourself And I couldn't imagine for you, even at like the 3, 6 month year mark where you looked back and you were like, whoa, because that's been happening to me. I've been with Kevin
Mhm.
doing this work for a year, day in and day out. And I look back at even the person I was a year ago or 2 years ago or 5 years ago, and I'm like, I don't know her. And that's not
Mhm.
me. And it's helped me a lot also in my relationships, which I bet that was huge for you.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I basically had to leave my former self in the past in a lot of
Yeah.
ways.
Yep.
Like
You shed
just
her.
drop kick her to the curb.
Well,
Yeah.
you did that with all of the clothes that you wore at 160 pounds or
Yeah.
whatever you were.
This
Well,
is
and
true.
also to love her though too, right? You look back and you knew she was hurting and you're able to be like, I get it now. It wasn't because you were
Mhm.
just unhealthy and off the rails. It was because
Yeah.
you were hurting and you were
Mhm.
stuck.
Yeah. I mean, that little girl still lives in me, and I just try my best to be the biggest support and sense of strength and reassurance that she needs, because she's still in there hurting.
Yeah.
Because she's still helping me heal. So
Yeah. Oh, that's so beautiful.
But do you find that your story is resonating with women all over the place?
I like to hope so. I mean, I I very much want to be for someone else what I needed. And that's the whole reason I'm here sharing and being as raw as I can possibly be. It helps me continue to heal as well. And, if I can help just one person feel like they have been seen and heard, it's all worth it to me.
Yeah.
Well, let me just tell you, darling, you're affecting more than one person today.
Woohoo!
Well, and if you only affect one person, that one person's going to go on to then affect somebody else. So
Right.
it's everything is a chain reaction. So you never
Yeah.
just help one person. Know that.
Yeah.
And the universe or God or however you assume the deity to be, but makes it work so that the person who needs to hear this message from you will be there to hear it. I don't know how they do that, but they do that.
Yep,
Yeah.
It's
they do.
it really is quite amazing. So
Mm.
so do you ever get anybody that walks up to you and says, "Gina, is it you?"
Not per se, but it's funny. I've gotten people for years saying, you look really familiar. And I was like, oh, that's weird. Maybe I must have an evil twin somewhere. I don't know.
No, that other person was a little heavier than you and stuff.
But no, the fame hasn't come yet.
It's on its way, my dear. It's on its way. It will happen for you because quite frankly, you're doing the work that we all should be doing or could be doing if we chose to, which is I'm going to take care of other people around me and I'm going to give them hope and give them encouragement and give them kindness and to give them love. And if we all did that, think about what the world would be like.
So different.
It'd be a trippy, hippie, happy experience all the time.
So true.
Now, I am from the 60s, and so
I know.
I was around the hippie movement, and it was, the make love, not war, and they just got stuck on making anyway. But and stuff. But it's great to have you here. And before we go, we've only got a couple of minutes left. I wanted to make sure that you had a moment. I would love for you to tell our audience, those that are listening now and those that are going to be listening in the future, anything you'd like them to know.
Two things come to mind. One is, if you're going through hardships, whether it's the same journey that I have been on or something different, like you mentioned, there's the 988 number, but also, even if it's not within your immediate circle, find someone that you feel you can trust to lean into and get the support and the help that you need so that you can start living a more positive and thriving life because you deserve to. And secondly, I just want to kind of end things with one of my favorite quotes that I stumbled upon. Don't ask me who it's by. But it's lived on a little card in my car for years. And it is, fear has two meanings. You can fear everything and run, or you can face everything and rise. And it basically boils down to, we have a choice, and my life could have been very different had I chosen, continued down the path I was on with self-harm. But, God had a greater purpose for me, and that's what I'm here trying to fulfill.
Rochelle, I was just curious. Do you have a favorite quote like that?
I don't think yet. I literally love all the quotes. Every time I hear one, I'm like, that's my new favorite. But the one thing I find myself telling a lot of like the younger kids and people who talk to me about my life and whatever you tell your brain believes you. Mm-hmm. And that alone, just every day I'm like, okay, we're going to be nice today. Because some days I wake up and I'm like, I don't know about this. Like, look at me. And then I'm like, no. If you have legs and you can get up and you can walk and you can look in the mirror and you have eyesight to see and you have a stomach and a mouth to eat with and a brain to use, don't waste it. So,
yeah. If you don't think you're awesome, no one else can.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm
my favorite fan.
Yeah, if you don't think you're awesome, number one, you're wrong. Everybody is awesome. Everybody was born great.
Yes.
Unfortunately, a lot of us get told in our life, you ain't so great, and or I want to take advantage of you, or a bunch of different things. You know what one of my favorite quotes is, guys?
What's that?
It comes from a movie that you would not think, because it was from a medieval movie, and the movie was called Braveheart. Wow. And at one time when he was a young kid, his father died, and his father was on the slab, and he turned his head while he was thinking about it, and he said, "Your heart is free. Have the courage to follow it."
That's a good one.
And that came from the most unusual source that you could.
But it works.
It worked for me, and I think about that often. I also think about the songs that have meant so much to the development of this show and to who I am and all that. So I'm eternally grateful. I am eternally grateful that you have chosen to come on to our show, because you mean a lot to a lot of people.
Thank you. I was very drawn to the show. The title alone drew me in. And then, you're doing great work yourself. So I appreciate you guys.
Well, we sucked you in with the title, did we? Well, that's good.
It worked.
And Rochelle, any other comments before we go?
No, just I can't wait to maybe even have you back on the show in the future and see where you're at then. You've gone through so much, there's been so much time, but you were so powerful, and the people that you're going to be able to help and touch, not just with their physical state, but mentality. When you can help somebody with your brain, it is something that you can't get anywhere else. So just keep doing what you're doing. We're here to support you. We love you. And I can't wait to see what the future holds for you. It's going to be beautiful.
Thank you.
And please get that memoir out. Yes, come back at the end of the year next year, and we can go over your memoir and how that went for you. And when your website is up, don't forget, everybody listening to the show, GeenaHymer.com will be up and available soon. So thank you, Geena, so much.
Thanks, you guys. I would love to come back sometime.
Yeah.
You have the link, and we're going to share that with you after the show ends again. Yep. So, Rochelle, you're doing so well. I'd like to thank everybody for being here, and we've got another show to do at 3. So if you're listening to this, George is going to be with us. He suffered a brain injury, and now he's working to get better. So thank you. Thanks for listening to this episode of Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. Our purpose is to provide everyone with a positive, entertaining, and educational experience. I would love your feedback and comments about the show, including possible topics and great guest suggestions. Please email me at kevin@kmmedia.pro. And remember, be kind to one another because each other's all we've got. That's Kevin at kmmedia.pro.